Good morning. What we are going to do today is we're going to review some problems for Praxis 2 Mathematics for middle school teachers. And the book that I am using for this review is this book from Cliff Notes. And I hope I'm not committing copyright violation here. So the problems that we are going to use for this review is from this book. By the way, the Praxis 2 content for middle school mathematics is composed of 5 content categories, namely 1. Arithmetic and basic algebra, 2. Geometry and measurement, 3. Functions and their graphs, 4. Probability, data analysis, statistics, and discrete mathematics, and 5. Problem solving. This part of the video is about the first category, the arithmetic and basic algebra, and then we'll discuss the other parts in the next videos. So here's our first problem. A temperature reading went from 13 degrees to -2 degrees. Which of the following represents the number of degrees of change in temperature? So to solve this problem, let's visualize. So we have here a scale. Let's say this is our 13 degrees. And then 0 is somewhere here. And then you have -2. Which of the following represents the number of degrees of change in temperature? So from 13, it went down to -2. So this distance from 13 to 0 is 13 units. So plus the distance from 0 to -2 is 2 units. So we expect that our answers would be 13 plus 2 equals 15 degrees. So there's a decrease of 15 degrees. Now the question, here are the options. If we select absolute value of 13 minus absolute value of 2, this would become, let me use a different color, 13 minus 2, which is 11, which is different from what is supposed to be our answer. If we pick option B, we know that the answer here is also positive 11. Here, absolute value of 13 is 13. And the absolute value of -2 is positive 2. This will give us 15. And letter D, absolute value of 13 is 13, minus the absolute value of -2 is positive 2. And this is also equal to 13. So among the options, only letter C will give us the correct answer, 15. So we will pick letter C as the correct answer. Let's go to the next question. Here's our next question. For which of the following expressions is A minus B a factor? So when we say A minus B is a factor, that means we can write the expression in the form A minus B times any other number here, as long as A minus B is one of the factors. Now, in A squared minus B squared, we know that this is a special product, and we call this as the difference of two squares. And the equivalent factored form of the difference of two squares, let me circle this because this is not part of our answer here. This is equivalent to A plus B times A minus B. Because if you are going to multiply these two factors, you will get A squared minus B squared. So clearly, A minus B is one of the factors here. So 1 is Correct. Second option, a squared minus ab plus b squared. Notice that this a squared minus ab plus b squared cannot be factored anymore. So we know 2 is not the answer. When you are taking your test, once you already know that 1 is correct, option 2 is wrong, then you can now look at the combinations here. Those with 1 could be our potential answer. A has 1 here, B has 1 also, but C and D do not have Roman numeral number 1, so these two are already eliminated. Now, if you look at A and B, the only difference is that you have 1 and 2 here, but we know that 2 is not an answer, so we can now eliminate this is wrong. Therefore, we are left with only one answer, and that's letter B. Letter B is our correct answer. Let's go to the next question. A student needs an average of at least 80 on 4 tests. So let's put here 4 tests. 1, 2, 3, 4. To earn a grade of B in economics class. The student has grades of 68, 92, and 84 on the first 3 tests. What is the lowest grade? We do not know that lowest grade. So let X be that lowest grade. So let X be that lowest grade. What is the lowest grade that the student can make on the 4th test and still receive a B in economics class? Notice that B is at least 80. So let's put here. At least means greater than or equal to. If I say my height should be at least 5'7", that means my height should be 5'7" or more. So we use the symbol greater than or equal to 80. But we want to get the average. So we are going to add all these numbers divided by how many numbers are there. So 1, 2, 3, 4 divided by 4. Then it's just a matter of solving this inequality. So 68 plus 92 plus 84 gives us 144 plus X divided by 4 is greater than or equal to 80. And then clear the inequality with fraction, so we can multiply both sides by positive 4. Since we are multiplying by positive 4, it has no effect on the direction of the inequality. So if we multiply both sides by 4, so may I repeat, since we are multiplying by positive 4, this greater than or equal to symbol is not affected. We can cancel this out, so you have 244 plus X greater than or equal to 320. And then X is greater than or equal to 320 minus 244. And that gives us X is greater than or equal to 76, which is letter D. Okay, let's go to the next question. Problem number 4. If the product of X and Y is not 0, then 3 over X plus 4 over Y is equal to what? Now, what do we mean by X times Y not equal to 0? First, let's look at what happens when the product of 2 numbers is 0. For example, if I know that X is 2, what should be Y so that the product of 2 and that number is 0? Yes, you are correct. you can only have a product of 0 if one of the factors is 0. So when you say the product xy is not 0, that means neither between x or y is 0. That means all of them are non-zero. So x is not 0, y is not 0. Because if x is 0 or y is 0, division by 0 is not allowed, then this number would have no meaning, or this number would be undefined if either x or y is 0. But the condition satisfies that x and y are not 0, so we can be able to get the value of this. So how do we do this one? This is just a matter of adding fractions. Our LCD is xy then xy times x is y times 3 is 3y. xy divided by y is x times 4 is 4x. So what we have is 3y plus 4x over xy, which is just the same as letter D. By commutative property, we can reverse the order of 3y and 4x. Okay, that's number 4. Let's go to the next problem. Which of the following expressions is equivalent to the expression x, the quantity x squared plus 4 all raised to negative 1/2 exponent? When we have a number raised to, let's say, a negative exponent, let's say a raised to negative 2, we can write this as 1 over the same base, but the exponent becomes positive. In the same manner, this given expression can be written in positive exponent as 1 over this entire expression raised to positive exponent. So x squared plus 4 raised to positive 1/2. When we have a fractional exponent, we can further write that as radical. So we can write this as 1 over the base is written under the radical sign. So x squared plus 4. The numerator of the exponent is 1, so I'll put it here. And then the denominator becomes the index of the radicand. It's 2. You can still write 2, but when the index is 2, we simply write that as 1 over, instead of putting the index 2, it's already understood here, so we just copy x squared plus 4, because this expression is raised to 1, so we can just remove the grouping symbol. And that's letter C. Okay, let's go to the next problem. Problem number 6. A trip of 204 miles requires 8.5 gallons of gasoline. At this rate, how many gallons of gasoline would be required for a trip of 288 miles? So, a trip of 204 miles requires 8.5 gallons. So, in order to travel 204 miles, you need 8.5 gallons. At this rate, so this is now our rate, a comparison by division when the units are different. This miles, this gallons, so 204 miles per gallon. And 204 miles per gallon is simply your speed or the rate. At this rate, how many gallons of gasoline would be required for a trip of 228 miles? So 228 miles over the number of gallons that would be required to travel 228 miles. But we do not know that number of gallons, so we let that be x. So we now form this proportion. 204 miles for 8.5 gallons as to 228 miles to what number of gallons. So to solve this proportion, we can do the cross multiplication. So you have 204x equals 228 times 8.5. So that means x equals, so let's compute 228 times 8.5. That gives us 1,938 divided by 204, and that gives us 9.5. So 9.5 gallons, because the unit of x here is the number of gallons. And that's letter P, 9.5 gallons. Let's go to the next problem. We have 4 raised to x plus 12 raised to x equals what? What we have here is the same exponent, but the base are different. And remember that we can only add exponential numbers when they have the same base and the same exponent. Which means that we cannot add 4x plus 12x in this form. What we need to do is we can try if there is a common factor. So what's the common factor between 4 and 12? We can now write this as 4 raised to x plus 4 times 3 raised to x. What I did was I just write 12 in factored form, 4 times 3. And the reason why I'm doing that is because I know that later on I'll be able to factor out this 4. When you have this number, 4 times 3 raised to x, we can rewrite this further as 4 raised to x plus 4 raised to x times 3 raised to x. And then there's a common factor of 4 raised to x times 4x divided by 4x is 1 plus 4 raised to x times 3 raised to x divided by 4 raised to x. We'll be able to cancel out 4 raised to x. What we'll have is 3 raised to x. And this form is now letter A. Next, which property of the complex number is illustrated here? So you have this is the first term. We can write that as 2 minus 3i here. That's the first. The second addend is 5 plus 6i. And the third is 1 minus 2i. Now from this, how do we arrive at this part? So how do we get 7? Notice that I can add the real part of this complex number. So 2 plus 5, I have 7. Then we add the corresponding imaginary part. So negative 3i plus positive 6i gives us positive 3i. Plus the last addend, 1 minus 2i. When I do that one, what I am doing was I added these two first, and the result will be added to the third addend. That is a way of saying I group these two addends first, and then I added the result to the next addend. That's what this part is saying. And then this last part, let's use a different color for that. How do we arrive at this 2 minus 3i? Notice that from the original 2 minus 3i, I I still have 2 minus 3i. But I can group these two, 5 plus 1, to get this 6. Then add the imaginary part, positive 6i plus negative 2i, that gives us positive 4i. So what happens here is we are adding the second and the third addends first, and then we just copied the first addend. So in properties of operation, what do you call that part when you say a plus b plus c is just the same as a plus b plus c, which is just the same as a plus the quantity a plus b? Yes, we call that as the associative property. And that's letter B. So B is the correct answer for number 8. Next, number 9. The whole number y is exactly 3 times the whole number x. So we can write it here. The whole number y is exactly equals 3 times the whole number x. The whole number z is the sum. So is means equals the sum of x and y. Which of the following cannot be the value of z? Now, this y can be substituted with this value. So what we'll have is z equals x plus, instead of y, we can write 3x. Anyway, y is equal to 3x. So clearly from here, we have z equals 1x plus 3x equals 4x. So that means z is a multiple of 4. So the question, which of the following cannot be the value of z? So since we know that z is a multiple of 4, then any number here that cannot be divided evenly by 4 is not a value of z. And if you are going to check, in all of these, only 314 is not divisible by 4. This next problem is just the application of multiplication of polynomials. So what we have is 2x cubed y times x plus 3 times 3x minus 1. So what we can do is multiply the first term by the second factor. So we can distribute. 2x cubed y times x is 2x to the 4th y. This is exponent 1, so 3 plus 1, we have 4. Then distribute again. This is the first, then second. So 2 times 3 is 6. X cubed y. So this part is the product of the first 2 factors times the third factor, 3x minus 1. So you have here 2 terms and you have another 2 terms here. When I'm multiplying polynomials like this, I find it easier if I write it in grid form like this. So I can write this 2x to the 4th y plus 6x cubed y here. Then I can write at the left the 3x and negative 1. So 2 times 3 is 6. X to the 4th times x is x to the 5th. Then I copy y. Then multiply -1 to this number. So we'll just get negative 2x to the fourth y. Then 3 times 6 is 18. X times x cubed is x to the fourth. We add the exponents. And then y. And then lastly, -1 times positive 6x cubed y is negative 6x cubed y. Are there terms that we can combine? Yes. 18x to the fourth y minus 2x to the fourth y. So we just copy the first, 6x to the fifth y. 18 plus -2 is positive 16. X to the fourth y. And then just copy minus 6x cubed y. And what letter is that? Number 10. It's letter C. Letter C. Problem number 11. Solve 2x times the quantity x minus 2 plus 1. So let me write it here. 2x times x minus 2 plus 1 equals 1. So we can apply the distributive property of multiplication over subtraction. 2x squared, then 2x times -2 is -4x equals 1. So since this is a second degree equation, this is quadratic equation, we'll not be able to use the usual way of solving equation using when we have a linear equation. What we're going to do is we're going to let the right side be equal to 0 by subtracting 1 here. So we'll have 2x squared minus 4x. Then subtract 1 both sides. So what I have at the left is -1. At the right is 1 minus 1 equals 0. So how do we solve for the roots of this equation? We can use the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula is -b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, that is equal to the root x. b is -4, so you have negative of -4 plus or minus b squared is -4 squared, 16, minus 4, our a is 2, then c is -1, all over 2 times our a is 2. Then we can simplify it here. Negative of -4 becomes +4 plus or minus, this becomes -4 times -1 is +4 times 2 is +8 plus 16 is 24. So we have here 24 over 4, which we can still further simplify as 4 plus or minus square root of 24 is 4 times square root of 4 times 6 over 4 equals 4 plus or minus square root of 4 is 2 times square root of 6 divided by 4. And the common factor here is 2, so we can divide this by 2. So we'll have 2 plus or minus square root of 6. And then divide this by 2 also, you have 2. And that is letter D. Let's go to the next problem. Number 12. what is the y value of the ordered pair that is the solution of the system? So you have here two linear equations. So you can now imagine that you have two equations. Let's say this is the first, this is the second. Although we do not know exactly where are they going to intersect. The point of intersection of the two lines would be the solution of the system. And any point has an x and a y coordinate. And in this problem, we are asked about what is the y value. Now, if you are going to look at the given equations, notice that the method that will work best here is the elimination by addition or subtraction. But we need to multiply the first term first by a certain number so that you'll have the same numerical coefficient. So what we can do is multiply this by -2. And what do we have? -2 times positive 2x is negative 4x. -2 times -3y is positive 6y equals -32. And then we just copy the second equation, 4x plus 5y equals 10. And then -4 plus 4 is 0, so we don't have this variable anymore. 6y plus 5y is 11y. -32 plus 10 is -22. Then divided by 11, we have y is -2. So the y coordinate of the solution of the system of equation is y equals -2, which is letter B. Here ends our first category. See you in the next video.